Is not man made for better and more noble things than living for the world and for sin? You know, it's interesting how the world pursues this beastly nature, this beastly way of thinking. Do you not see it, children, in the theory of evolution, which says that you are nothing more than an animal? And what is that but the directive that comes from this so-called theory that you ought to live as an animal, as a sinner? That's what the theory teaches. At the end of the day, you're no different than an animal, a beast. So live as a beast and die as a beast. In the final analysis, nothing more and really nothing less than an animal. Sure, you have some superior faculties, they might say, but so does an orangutan have superior faculties over a rat. You're just a bit more advanced in some ways than the orangutan. And so for these worldly and earthy men, there is no concept of sin. There is no concept of morality. There is no judge because there is no creator. It's a beastly system that has come from the beast himself. This is another reason, and I say this with all respect, we have to be careful and jealous about where we put our children in school, parents, especially in systems that teach that man is nothing more than an animal. You look at the public schools. They teach children that they are just beasts of a slightly higher order. Not only is that atheistic to the core, but it will lead them to beastly behavior. Just look at your public schools if you want an example of beastliness. They are literally run as prisons these days to keep children from killing each other. That's the product of a beastly system and atheistic schemes that have said no to God. This is the result of a system that treats children as animals and not image bearers, that even says to these children in the schools, if you want to have an abortion without your parents' consent, that's fine. This is a beastly system, and it's atheistic to the core. And sometimes when we think about atheism and atheistic systems, we don't put what ought to come next. This is a beastly way of thinking, that man is no different than the animals, and it leads to all kinds of evils. Well, may God have mercy by answering any of our prayers, that the eyes of our people would be open to see that we are as beasts without Christ. Pray that God would show our nation that without the Lord, we are nothing more than beasts. Verse 20, all go unto one place. All are of the dust, and all turn to dust again. From dust to dust, right, children? Man comes from dust and returns to dust as the beast, at least in an outward sense. There's more that happens to man than that at death. But outwardly, if all there is for you is a carnal and earthly life, well, what happens to the beast is what you expect would happen to the man. A man who lives for sensual and carnal appetites without a thought of the things of eternity, with no thought of the true God and of heaven, well, then he just merely goes to the dust from whence he came. Is that really what you think? Is that really what life is? A returning just to dust? That's really a truly hopeless thing. But that is what a beastly life is like in your own estimation. That's not what's actually going to happen to you. But if you live as a beast, why would you expect anything better than that?